Okay, something went wrong. Okay, children, I'm just sharing my PPT once again before we start the class. Are you able to see my PPT, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
So, welcome for today's session, all of you. In today's session, we will be learning about federalism. What is federalism? So, objective for today's session is to understand what is federalism, the levels of the government, features of federalism, in which we will be understanding what is coming together federation, what is holding together federations, and what makes India a federal country. Right. So when we talk about federalism, what is it actually? So to understand it, in the previous chapter, we have already learned about the vertical division of power among the different levels of the government. And we have understood that that is one of the major forms of power sharing in modern democracies. Now, when we say vertical division of power, we mean by it as the division of the powers of the government between the central government, state government, and the local self-governing bodies. Right. So in this chapter, we will focus on this form of power sharing. That means the vertical division. So it is most commonly referred to as federalism. Okay. So when we say federalism, it is a system of government in which the power is divided between a central authority and the various constituent units of the country. Now, if we see the model of Belgium and Sri Lanka that we have learned in the last chapter, we will understand that the changes that were made in the model of Belgium, that means the constitution was amended 4 times. Changes were made in the constitution of Belgium 4 times, so that the power of the central government can be reduced and to give its these powers to its regional government, so that the governments can be done in a better way, right? So regional governments existed in Belgium even earlier, right? I can still see many children not having your cameras on. Children, please switch on your cameras.
Ma'am, I'm
Right?
using a computer.
But then try from the next session, please try to join with the mobile phone or tab or something where you can access your camera also. Okay, or else I'm worried I will not be allowing you to the class. Right? Now moving further, the change that took place in 1993 was that the regional governments were given constitutional powers that were no longer dependent on the central government. This I'm talking about the Belgian setup. Right. So then Belgium shifted from unitary form of government, that means single control of the government on the powers, to federal form of government where the division of power takes place. Right. Now, when we have learnt about Sri Lankan model, there was again a unitary system where the national government had all the powers. So Tamil leaders wanted Sri Lanka to become a federal system, because of which there was there was so much of a struggle between the people to get equal opportunity and equal status in the country. Right. So we can rightly say that federalism is a system of government in which power is divided between a central authority and various constituent units of the country. Now, when we talk about division, a federation has 2 levels of government. One is the government for the entire country, that is usually responsible for the subjects of common national interest. That means the whole country together as one, dealing with the common matters that are beneficial for the country as a whole. Right. And the others are the governments at the level of provinces. That means the state governments. right? So they are independent of each other and have their own powers. So we can say that in the unitary system, there is only one level of government, and there is only one level of government, and the subunits are the subordinate to the central government. The central government can pass on orders to the provinces or the local government. But on the other hand, in a federal system, the central government cannot order the state government to do something. That means the matters or the subjects that are related to the state government or that are specific to the particular state are dealt by the state governments only, right? Now, moving on to the features of federalism. Now, the first and very important feature of federalism is that there are two or more levels of the government. Then different years of the government govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in specific matters of legislation, taxation, and administration. That means that there is division of power between the government at different levels. So all the levels govern the same citizens living in the country, but in a different manner, right? Suppose it's a matter that is related to the union government, will be taken care by the union government. Suppose a subject relates to the matter that comes under the state government, so then that will be taken care by the state government. Moving on to the third point, the jurisdiction of the respective levels of the tiers of government are specified in the Constitution. So, the existence and authority of each tier of government is constitutionally guaranteed. That means all the divisions are laid down by the Constitution and the government has to function accordingly. Moving on to the fourth bit, the fourth feature of federalism states that the fundamental provisions of the Constitution cannot be unilaterally changed by one level of the government. That means any decision that has to be taken or any amendment that has to be made cannot be done alone by single level of the government. In such cases, the changes require the consent of both the levels of the government, right? So with the consent of both the levels of the government only, the changes can be made. It cannot be done with one level of the government alone. Moving on to the fifth feature of federalism, which says that courts have the power to interpret the Constitution and the powers of different levels of the government. The highest court acts as an umpire if disputes arise between different levels of the government in the exercise of their respective powers. So we can say that first of all, the Constitution lays down the powers or has already defined the powers of the different levels of the government. In case there is any dispute or any matter comes in front of the court, the highest level of the court or the jurisdiction is taken care by the court, so that the disputes can be sorted out and powers can be retained with the different levels of the government, and the decisions can be taken accordingly by the different levels of the government. The sixth feature of federalism states that the sources of revenue for each level of the government are clearly specified to ensure its financial autonomy. That means how the government will get their income is also specified by the Constitution. The federal system, thus we can say that has the dual objective. First, to safeguard and promote the unity of the country, because we have seen lot of linguistic diversity, we have seen lot of cultural diversity in our country. So we can say that federalism provides provides and promotes the unity amongst the country, right? It safeguards the unity in the country, and also it accommodates the regional diversity that exists in our country. So therefore, we can say that the two aspects are crucial for the institutions and practice of federalism. If we do not safeguard and promote unity in the country, that can lead to civil war, as it happened in case of Sri Lanka, right? If we do not accommodate the regional diversity, again there will be unrest in the society, and people will start raising their voice for getting the equal opportunities and equality for a status and equality in the society. So safeguarding both is really very important. So governments at different levels should agree to some of the rules for power sharing. They should also trust that each would abide by its part of agreement. An ideal federal system has both aspects: the mutual trust with each other and agreement to live together. Right? Now, Nida, Pranavi, again your cameras are off. Sufia, Sohail, please switch on your cameras. Varda, switch on your cameras. Now, moving further, now we are moving on to the two different aspects of federalism. One is coming together, the other is holding together. So we can say that the exact balance of powers between the central and the state government varies from one federation to another. This balance depends mainly on the historical context in which federations were formed. So there are two kinds of routes through which federations have been formed. So one is the coming together federation and the other is the holding together federation. So when we talk about coming together federations, the independent states, they come together on their own to form a bigger unit, so that by pooling sovereignty and retaining identity, they can increase their security. Like we see the examples in USA, Switzerland, and Australia. So all the constituent states usually have equal powers and are strong, but they are a part of the federal system, the federal government, right? So they all pool the sovereignty and they retain their own dignity. That means they have their own powers, but together they form the federal system, which is termed as coming together federation. That means they are independent units who have come together to form the federation. That is why we term it as the coming together federations. So all these states have the equal powers and they are equally strong, but they have come together. That is why we are using the term as coming together federations. Moving on to the second one, which is holding together federation. Now, here, where large country like our country India divides its power between the states and the national government. Like we are the country as a whole where we have the central government, but still the country is divided into the different states where all states come together as the union of the country, isn't it? So here we say as the holding together federation, where there is a central government that has a hold on all the states and the powers and the different matters that are directly under the control of the central government, and states have their own powers but still come under the authority of the central government, right? In any conflict, the decision of the central government is considered as the final decision. So ours is a holding together federation. Other examples of holding together federation is Spain and Belgium, right? So central governments tends to be more powerful than the states, right? So we have already seen this kind of setup in Belgium, where again there is the division of powers from the central government to the provincial government to the community government. So same way, when we see the division of powers in our country, there is a union government or the central government, and then there are the state governments, and the third tier is the local self-governing bodies. Moving on to the next part, which is what makes India a federal country. Now, before moving on to this, I have a small video to share with you. Just give me a second while I'll share my video. So, Hale, can you just remove this Spider-Man background and can I see your face? Thank you. Remove it.
Mom, I don't have a camera.
Then instead of this background, please add your picture over there. Now, are you able to see my screen, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
In a federation, power is distributed or shared between the central and state governments. The government at the center has powers to make laws on issues of national importance, while the state government has law-making powers over state administration. Both levels of government coordinate with each other and also act independently. A federal system is different from the unitary system. A unitary form of government, power is concentrated in the hands of a single all-powerful government. As of the year 2012, there are close to 200 countries in this world. Of these, about 25 countries have the federal system of governance. However, there are considerable differences in the ways in which these federations function. The distribution of power between the central and state governments can be either equal or unequal. A comparison of center-state relations in India and the United States would shed light on the different forms of federalism practiced in the world. In India, powers of the central government and the state governments have been clearly defined by the Constitution of India. However, there are areas where the authority of the central government supersedes that of the state government. For example, the center has the power to appoint key ministers, and amendment to the Constitution can be proposed only by some. The federal system ensures that the unity of the country and diversity of the regions is maintained. Hence, Indian government is described as quasi-federal, a federal government with strong unitary features. The federal form of government in the US is different. States in the US have much greater power and autonomy. Besides the US Constitution, there is a separate constitution for each state in the US. The US Constitution cannot be effectively modified or amended without the approval of all the states. Why is this distribution in the two countries? Maybe an can be found east concentrate very strong position. London.
Akshita ma'am, we can't hear properly, ma'am. The video and the voice is breaking a lot.
Then maybe connection for you is a little weak, Jyotsna, because everything is very clear at my end.
Ma'am,
I'm also having
it's
some
happening with
problem.
other people
Okay.
also.
So I'm again sharing another screen and another video. Just go through it, okay? See my screen, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Children, are you still able to see my screen?
See it anymore.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Now,
Ma'am, it just shows that you started screen sharing.
I'm continuing the class, it won't work.
Yes, ma'am.
we will just skip with the one second. Right, children, we will just skip on that. I am just sharing my PPT and we will continue with the PPT. Right, so we are moving on to the next part, that is what makes India a federal country. Right, so we have already seen the Belgium and the Sri Lanka model. Now we will compare the features of federalism that we have already studied with the model of the governance that we have, or the constitutional setup that we have in our country, and see if we are a federal country or not. Right, so the constitution declared India as union of states. That means there is a union government which, or the central government, which takes care of the whole country. Right, so although it is not it did not use the word federation, but the Indian Union is based on the principles of federalism. Right, and this happened immediately after independence. So all the princely state became a part of our country, and India was declared as the union of states. That means all the states combined together as one country. Right, so we will be now looking at the different features that makes India a federal country. Now, the first feature that we discussed was there is a division of power. If you see, there are two or more levels or the tiers of government, right? So if we see, our country also has the division of power. In our country also, we see the three tiers in the division of powers, where there is a state government, the union government, the state government, and the local self-governing bodies. So the constitution clearly provided a threefold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state government. Then the third tier, which we call it as the local self-governing body, or the Panchayati Raj, we also term it as decentralization, that you will be learning in the later part of this chapter. Right, now when we move further, the third tier also was added in the form of panchayats and municipalities, and these different tiers enjoy separate jurisdiction. So we have Lok Adalats, we have high courts, and then we have the Supreme Court in the country to take care of the law and order, the jurisdiction in the country. Right. So the constitution clearly provided a threefold distribution of legislative powers between the union government and the state government. So when it clearly defines the powers, there are three lists that we talk about. One is the union list, the second is the state list, and the third is the concurrent list. So union list includes the subjects of the national importance, such as defense of the country, foreign affairs, banking, communication, and currency. So all these are very important aspects for a country. So these are directly taken care by the union government and they come under the union list. They are included in this list because we need a uniform policy on these matters throughout the country. Right? So uniformity is required whether we talk about a North Indian state or a South Indian state. So the uniform laws and measures are adopted by the union government and it alone can make laws relating to the subjects that are mentioned in the union list. Right? Moving on to the next, which is the state list. It contains the subjects of the state or the local importance, such as how, what will be the role of the police in the state, how trade and commerce will be done, what are the facilities that will be provided to the agriculture and irrigation, what will be the assistance required by these. So that is taken care by the state government and the state government alone can make laws relating to these subjects that are mentioned in the state list. Now moving on to the third list, which is the concurrent list. So it includes the subjects that are of interest for both the union government as well as the state government. Suppose we talk about the natural resources, the forest, right? So it will be considered both by the union and the state government. Education, the percentage of people that are literate or illiterate in the state. So that will be taken care by both the central and the state government. The marriage, adoption, succession, all these issues will be taken care both by the union as well as the state government. So these comes under the concurrent list, right? And if their laws conflict with each other, suppose the union government says something and the state government says something else for the same matter, then the laws made by the union government will prevail in case of dispute. Right? So in the beginning of the session also I told you that in case of any dispute between the union and the state government on such matters, the decision taken or the laws made by the union government will prevail. Okay. Now there are some other subjects that are termed as residuary subjects, which don't come under all such lists, like computer software that came up with after the constitution was made, right? So computers and all technological development, it all came much later on after the constitutional framework was done. So such subjects comes directly under the union government, and union government has the power to legislate on these subjects, and these are termed as residuary subjects. Am I clear till now, children?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great.
Yes, ma'am.
Now moving further. Now, most federations that are formed by holding together do not give equal power to the constituent units. That means they have different powers for states. In the past, we have seen the example of Jammu Kashmir. Till now, it had its own constitution, right? Now, with the union government declaring it as another union territory, now things will be different. But till now, Jammu and Kashmir had its own constitution. People living in other states were not allowed to buy or sell the property in that particular state, right? And many provisions were not applicable in that state without the approval of the state assembly, right? The permanent, citizens who were not the permanent resident of that state were not allowed to buy land or house in that particular state. Now the union government has termed it as the union territory, right? So things will be different now. So we can say that some units of Indian Union enjoy very little power as they are areas which are too small to become an independent state, but which could not be merged with any of the existing states. So we have union territories, like we have the Chandigarh, we have Delhi, we have Pondicherry, right? So we have different union territories. Now Jammu and Kashmir also, along with Ladakh, will be the union territory of our country, right? So central government has the special powers in running these areas. Now, sharing of powers between the union government and the state government is the basic to the structure of the constitution. Now, it is not easy to make changes to this power sharing arrangement. So, Parliament plays a very important role here. Parliament cannot on its own change this arrangement, and any change to it has to be first passed by both the houses of the Parliament. That means the lower house and the upper house. When we say lower house, has the members that are directly elected by the people, and the upper house where there are some people that are elected and there are people that are selected, right? So any change that has to be made has to pass from both the houses with at least 2/3 of majority. Then it has to be ratified by the legislature of at least half of the total states. Then only the changes can be made in the constitutional setup. That means the amendments can be made, right? Moving on to the next part, which is the judiciary, which plays an important role in overseeing the implementation of the constitutional provisions and the procedures. So in case of any dispute about the division of power, the High Court and the Supreme Court makes a decision. The union and the state government have the powers to raise resources by levying taxes on the order to, in order to carry on the government and responsibilities assigned to each one of them. So judiciary again plays a very important role. Now moving on to the end of the session, we'll quickly have a recap of what we did today. We understood what is federalism. We then learned about the different levels of the government. We have seen the different tiers of the government that govern the same citizens, but each tier has its own jurisdiction in a specific matter to the legislation, taxation, and administration. The jurisdiction of the levels of tiers of the government are specified in the constitution. That means the constitution has laid down the rules on which each tier of government functions. We have also learned today that the federal system has dual objective: one, to safeguard and promote the unity in the country, and also to accommodate the regional diversity. We have learned about the coming together and holding together federations. And then we have also seen that if the laws are under conflict with the different tiers of the government, then the laws made by the union government will prevail, right? So to end the session, I have a small quiz for you all that I'm sharing with you now. Okay. Are you able to see my screen, children?
Yes, ma'am.
So my first question is for Sohail. Quickly read out the question, Sohail, and answer.
Ma'am is not there.
Sohail isn't there, but he
No.
joined, no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Ubaid, can you answer it for me?
Yes,
Obed,
ma'am. Let me.
quick. Yuvika? Maisha?
Yes, ma'am.
Quick.
Can I answer?
Yes, my dear.
I think it's. I'll let Yuvika answer.
I think it's C.
I think it's C.
Ma'am, it's C.
It is C, because when we say Union of India, it is the Prime Minister, and then the state is under the governor, right? So like that. How many tiers does the Indian government have? Hafsa? Hafsa, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Quickly respond. 10th?
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I guess it's 2.
Eh?
Ma'am,
Tiers
may
of the
I
Indian
answer?
government.
Ma'am, may
It
I
is
answer?
3.
3.
Indian government, state
Oh.
government, and the local self-governing bodies. Okay, this is for Maisha.
Ma'am.
Yes.
I think statements 1 and 2 are correct. So it should be C.
Absolutely right. It is 1 and 2 are correct. Now, which of the following comes under the Union Territory? This will be answered by Sufia. She left. Pranavi.
Ma'am, Chandigarh.
Very good. Next is, how many people in India speak English as their mother tongue? One of the boys, maybe Karun or Farhan.
I'll see this one. Ma'am, D.
It is B, 0.02%.
Okay.
Next is, how many languages are established in India after the grouping of the languages? Vaishnavi?
Ma'am, I guess it's D.
D. It is B, 140. Okay, India became a democracy in which year? This will be answered by Jyotsna. Nida? Okay.
Ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 1947 is the correct answer. Nida, next, this question. Which state in India has its own constitution? Actually, till now had its own constitution. Nida?
Ma'am. Akshita, ma'am.
Yes, my dear.
Ma'am, can I answer?
Yes, dear.
Ma'am, it's Jammu and Kashmir.
Very good. It is Jammu and Kashmir. So, we came to the end of the session. I hope the session was interactive and informative for you all. See you all in the next session. Till then, stay home, stay safe.
Thank you.